Wasn't that just a lovely movie? And if you've noticed that all of our projections here have been so beautiful, that's because of the two projectionists that I'd like to introduce you to, James Bond and Joaquin de la Puente. James Bond and Joaquin, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Joaquin. Year after year, you do such a beautiful job. And I remember when Roger would ask you what was the most difficult thing, you said, you just tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. Whether it was 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter, 16 millimeter. Even when we went to DCP's digital projection, just as long as we didn't do it all the time, you were very helpful in making sure that we were able to maintain all kinds of projections here. We thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And James has been with us from the very beginning. This is your 26th festival.
What? Okay. I forgot that. And we were very fortunate that you had Joaquin de la Puente, because you went through some health challenges, just like we all did. But Joaquin has been so able and so very, very following in your footsteps. So thank you so much, Joaquin de la Puente.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Virginia Theater staff, all the sound guys, everybody on the staff. You guys do it as much as any of us do, so thank you. And thank you to the audiences, too.
And the other thing, somebody, asked, and you have to verify this, just like when I asked Francis Ford Coppola if he was really named after Henry Ford, to make sure I don't give any misinformation. Somebody asked, is your name really James Bond?
Yes, indeed. My family was from New York and Poland. My mother came out, was rounding up from Poland during the Second World War, and she met my dad in New York, and they got together and had me, and my name is naturally James Bond. Right.
So I'm not giving any misinformation.
Absolutely.
James Bond.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you so
very
much.
But James also restores antique automobiles, which he drives around at a very fast speed. So.
Well, thank you, and we're
Thank
going to
you.
have our panel now. I'd like to call out on the stage again to lead the panel, Nell Minow. Joining her will be Brenda Butler, professor and journalist, Brenda Butler. And also joining us will be Dr. Doug Arnell Williams, who is actually the first African-American architectural landscaper, doctor of landscaping, architect, and whose father was actually a very famous artist. I've seen your father's work, loved it. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Wow, what a movie. Wasn't I right about it? Right. All right, well, Doug just told me that he's spent some time in Japan, so I'm going to begin with him and let him tell us a little bit about some of the touches that he noticed.
Well, first off, thank you for being here, everyone, and thank you, Chaz, and the panel. This was my first time seeing this film. I had spent some time in Japan. I studied Japanese history and culture here at the University of Illinois as one of the non-Western history courses that they require. And so my sensei is Mother Gunji, Kamiko Gunji, who holds an award from the Emperor of Japan, who ran the Japan House during my time. And her daughter, Jennifer Gunji, is now the director here on this campus, so you should go by and visit. She teaches the Suites of Akashi courses, as well as I'm a member of the Ikenobo School, the oldest school of Japanese flower arranging out of Kyoto, Japan. In fact, I studied there with her while I was at Cornell, and so I was invited to the headquarters, which was the tallest building in Kyoto. In the film, they were mostly at the time in England, but you can see some of the elements that were adapted even in that place that became a tattoo parlor later. But they adapted it to a Japanese style. Even that courtyard, as you can see, you see in Japan as the machiyas, where they have the shops on the lower level or restaurants, etc. But they have a garden space, and the upper level is where they live, much like we have sort of the storefront church or stores in the States. And in fact, the Japan House, the original one here on campus, was in a Western style home on California, where now the Alumni Center, where they have some of Roger Ebert's memorabilia and things that are housed that you should definitely go see. Some of the cultural elements, I mean, this story was so layered and beautiful, especially the hopeful ending in terms of the generations that came even through the stigma, the misinformation, and that was very new in terms of the atomic bomb. But in Japanese culture, there is even an art form called Buto, which comes out of the time of the post-atomic bombs. And you see it come up in contemporary culture. That's why there was such a big love for Michael Jackson's Thriller album, because they were coming back from the dead. If you think about that, you see it in the Miss Elliott's work, the Get Your Freak On song, where they sing Ichi, Ni, San, Shi, Go, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the style of dress and the theatrical form of Buto comes through that art form of that hip-hop video. You know, we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, so these cultural connections come across time. But in Japan, even historically, for many decades, if not centuries, they have an untouchable class of people called the Burakomi, who have occupations around the dead, who deal with blood, and so they will go to the farthest lengths in some corners of Japan to make sure that they don't intermarry with that particular group of people. So we do unfortunate things, not just there, but across various cultures to other folks. So I think this was beautiful in showing how we live beyond that, and we make some choices with courage to live and to love beyond that. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I was expecting, the first thing that they say when Christopher walks into the restaurant is, the foreigner is here, Gaijin.
Gaijin, yeah.
Gaijin. And so I was expecting them not to be welcoming to him. And so that was part of what really invites you into the beauty of that world. Chaz, you were very affected when you first saw it, and I think, as I said, that it exemplifies your 4 principles. You want to talk about how they're reflected in the film?
Actually, before that, I'd like to talk about the fact that Roger and I had gone to Japan, I think twice. We were invited by the Japan American Society. They invited him because they knew that Roger was one of the few Westerners who had done an extensive study of Ozu. And so they took us and they had Roger teach at a university there. It was just a one-day thing that he gave a lecture. And we also met with someone there who had, oh my God, I can't remember his name now, but he was an American professor who they said was one of the first Westerners to bring a lot of Japanese culture to the West. So anyway, we had 2 trips to Japan, and I was just trying to think as they were, the first words that I was taught to go there were, of course, Ohayo gozaimasu and Domo arigato gozaimasu. So I actually like languages, and I do plan to go back to Japan one day. But this film was just so beautiful and so romantic and, you know, painful and bittersweet and everything. And I just want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I've never been to Japan, but I love a love story, a romantic love story like this. And I think of other movies like An Affair to Remember, but you also think about, you know, the protagonist never forgot her, even in his own marriage when they were having troubles and seeing a counselor. And I love the way he decided, I have this one last life, this one thing I must do, and I'm going to do it. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, because how many of us do not turn the pages and go back over the chapters of our life and say, well, how can I fix this? How can I fulfill this desire? So I thought this movie addressed it in so many layered ways.
Oh, one other thing, for those who have been coming all 25 or 26 years, you probably remember when Paul Cox brought his movie Innocence, Paul Cox from Australia, and brought the movie Innocence. This film is very much in the style of Innocence or An Affair to Remember.
Yeah, I mean, I love An Affair to Remember just like everybody else, but my God, they should have just talked about it a year earlier, you know, anyway. Tell me a little bit, for whoever wants to respond to this, about the interlacing of the previous relationship and the present, the time of the movie of 2020. I thought that was especially effective in this movie in terms of telling you just the amount of information that you needed at the time. But how did you feel about it?
From the 60s and 70s
The
to
70s,
20.
yeah.
Yes, I thought the director, an excellent job of weaving the past and the present. And I did read, I think maybe in your column, Nell, that the movie is based on a novel.
Yes.
And I think the novelist and the director collaborated in the story for this film.
Yes, that's right. Somebody gave him, and as I said, he's well known for doing shoot-'em-ups.
Yeah.
And so this is very different for him. But somebody gave him the novel, he really fell in love with it, and it became just a beautiful, tender story. It's so delicately told. What do you think we get from the movie from the fact that it's in 3 different countries, in 2 different hemispheres, and very different cultures? How does that add to the story?
What I think it shows is that, you know, we always talk about, or I know I talk about it probably incessantly, the interconnectedness of life, the interconnectedness of cultures, and the fact that underneath it all, when you look down from space and you look down at our little blue marble of a planet, there's really not as much difference between us from someone looking from outer space. We're a lot alike. And I think that it only enriches us when we go to other countries, when we learn other languages, when we eat foods that are different, when we experience cultures of others. I just think that it adds a richness to our life, just like it added a richness to the movie, to see what happened in how they acted in England compared to, his life in Iceland and her life in Japan. And the other thing I wanted to mention, when I went to Hiroshima, Nagasaki, it was just very chilling for me. It didn't seem like the place where the atomic bomb had been dropped at that time, but I felt a heaviness of time and just a hope that never happens again anywhere on this earth. So,
I hope you're right. Well, Doug, I want to ask you, from your professional expertise, in our 3 different countries and maybe 4 different locations, and particularly with regard to Hiroshima, which was a completely rebuilt city, what do we learn from the landscape?
Good question. I think I've been to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was, as my students say, back in the 1900s. Yeah, that's what they date me now. This was actually the summer of 1999 when my flight was $600 round trip. Yeah, for 2 months I did a study abroad there. It allows us to see, I think what Chaz is pointing out, the global relationship of us, our planet, even horticulturally speaking. My undergrad is in horticulture, so a lot of the plants we have in the United States come from that region, Japan, Korea, the portion of China, because of the similar climatic arrangement. So, I mean, even the establishment shot for the film, we start with the Icelandic landscape, with the roadway, with the beautiful mountainous landscape, with the snow, and then later on we see the Japanese, and you say, what is the, Mount Fuji, thank you. Mount Fuji. And so that connection to space and time, and then also the idea around even singing. So the landscape is there. It's a little bit more of background in a sense. But I think when you look at Hiroshima, you do see the National Monument site where that was sort of the epicenter. Mm-hmm. I was there 50 years roughly after, which is supposed to be the shelf life of atomic energy. So it's supposed to be safe, but I imagine it's never safe. It gets into our atmosphere. So, but I wanted to say something too about the atomic bomb, and it came through some other films, if you're thinking of Oppenheimer, but even a text I taught from one well-known journalist, a bestseller, Malcolm Gladwell, from his almost his last piece is called The Bomber Mafia. He writes in honor of his Jewish grandfather, his father's side of the family, in terms of his time with the Air Force. But looking back at that, saying that we didn't really have to drop that bomb because we were already winning that war. It was almost like this Russia competition, and then to say who's really going to make use of this. And so we have that horrific time. I won't wish war on anybody. It's not good for so-called victor or loser because the people in every country lose out. So very much so anti-war. Hopefully we can mitigate things. But that landscape is forever changed. I was in the mountains of that portion of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, looking down and seeing the environment, but just thinking back, what was that like at that moment? And then having that type of toxicity placed there, and then the amount of time it took for that to kind of go away. And it comes out through the film through, even the thinking that this is not going to impact the children who have been a part of that time period, because who knew, because we never had this before. So can you blame folks for thinking what they were thinking because they didn't know? We didn't know. Yeah.
Nell, I'd like to hear your viewpoint on, I'd like to talk about love, and tell us why you were so affected by this movie.
Well, I think like many people, I do love movies about love. My husband and I have been together since high school. Since high school. Yeah, since high school, yeah. And he's amazing. So I think we all love the idea, whether we have a partner or not, of seeing the possibilities of love, seeing the intimacy of love. This is not one of those movies where we get to hear their thoughts as they talk to each other about their philosophies of life or anything like that. Nevertheless, we can really feel that connection, that wonderful moment that I noticed a number of our interstitial creators picked up, which is the hands touching, and it's wonderful. But what I like about it is that, as somebody who's been in a relationship for a long, long time, I really relate to the young love, but I really relate to the older love, and the fact that they live their lives, they don't come together and say, why did you do this? You hurt my feelings, I've never gotten over it. No, they just are happy to be together. And to me, love is very much sort of a gigantic form of all of the things that you talk about, Chaz, about compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and kindness. And that's what makes it possible for us to tolerate other people for such a long period of time. So I, Elizabeth Taylor, who should know because, she was married 8 times to 7 men, said that she thought that love was just a heightened form of tolerance. She never quite figured that out, but she did say that. She said that when she was married to the second to last guy who was our senator at the time. But yeah, I think there's an element of that. And I think that this movie is, I think we would all agree, deeply, deeply romantic because it appreciates the magnetism of love and the enduring part of love. What do you think?
I would like to say, Nell, on top of that, Christopher was determined because Miko said, "Oh, you're still here."
Yeah.
She said, "Please forgive me."
Yeah.
I mean, she was really almost again kind of pushing him away, and
She didn't want to open the door.
right, but he was. I mean, this was his journey back to her, and I think he was going there no matter what. I was really taken when he gets to the restaurant where his son works. At first, I said he was so halting, and I couldn't figure out if he was sick or what. But then I realized that the weight of knowing that he had a child of his own that he never and grandchildren that he never knew about was almost overwhelming for him. But he pulled it together.
You're absolutely right, but I also think that, in a way, it made up for all those lost years, that they may have been in 2 different places, but this crucial aspect of their love was continuing on in the world.
Too, for him, how I was seeing it roll out was that this was his first love, his first true love, because Miko asked him earlier, why didn't you stay with this person and blah, blah, blah. Well, I didn't ask about the father, I didn't do this. He was doing all those things that she could observe and saw and say, oh, this is serious, but to have to break or lose that relationship, as the song says, you don't know what love is until you know the meaning of the blues. So they had to lose love in order to, under certain circumstances. But he had questions. He wanted some answers. I mean, not, accusing her, but he wanted to find out why, what really went on. He was patient enough, obviously, to allow her to, because he still loved her, to tell that story.
I'm going to open it up to the audience.
Well, not yet, because
I
have one thing that I have to say, and I have to ask because I want to know this. So the mother would go to see her son, who didn't know that was his mother, that's love and sacrifice and all of those kind of things. But for him, who would be able to keep going to that restaurant and not one day blurt out, I'm your mother, I'm your father? I mean, would anybody do that? I just don't think that I would be able to go week after week after week and not finally get up and give him a big hug and say, I'm your mother, or something like that.
Darth Vader didn't even do that, did he?
Or their son saying, these people, he must know he's adopted, right? He said, why are these people coming every week sitting here?
Right. The food is good. Yeah. Well, it's the ideal, I think, in that situation is in that Olivia de Havilland movie where she doesn't tell him and he figures it out. That's the way to do it. All right. So I've got one more question for the group while we get ready for the audience, and that is, one thing that's very important in this movie is food. So tell me a little bit about what you think the food and the creation of beautiful food for other people is about in this movie.
Well, I would say in terms of Japanese dining, I mean, the tradition of preparation, I think they really captured that, from the tea all the way to the Japanese breakfast, and then him learning the technique of preparing that food. and the tasting of the pickles, the different flavored pickles. I just thought it was beautiful. The Japanese chef and cuisine is probably one of the best in the world. So I think they embrace that fully.
And food is a language of love. I think in every culture, food is a language of love.
Yeah. I'm a Jewish mother. It's like our thing, yeah.
Also, food, I think, it brings people together. You have conversations over a meal. In many of the films we've watched, that's where people have a little time to, even if they're so-called at each other's throats, they take that moment out. Even biblically, you have Judas who's sitting at the table, and he's able to at least be somewhat hospitable at that time. But you have this intimacy with food. It's even when you're growing food, because my dissertation was on community gardens and social capital, so it builds those types of relationships of trust, sharing, and collective efficacy. It made me think of another film I just saw recently as I'm applying or have applied to a film cohort for the summer. And it's called The Taste of Everything, and it's a French film, and it's this deep intimacy between the two, yeah. And just, I couldn't taste the food, but I wanted to. I could just see the love in their eyes. They didn't get married, but it wasn't about that. It was about this other marriage between their art forms and their just passion for that art. So, I mean, it's just, the taste buds, the sense, all that stuff is just there.
And the care, and particularly with Japanese film, the care, the plating of it, the way he cut so carefully. If you haven't seen Hero Dreams of Sushi, totally recommend that. Except that I stopped eating sushi afterwards, I felt bad. But yeah, it's the love, the artistic nature of it. All right, who's got a question out there in the audience? I know we got somebody.
Do we have microphones?
Yeah, I see one.
Upstairs or down? Upstairs. Balcony, okay.
Okay, I see you.
Gone? Okay. My wife and I lived in Hiroshima for 2 years, 2017 to 2019, operating a small peace study center there. And so we worked on a regular basis with hibakusha, who would come to the center to tell their stories. And this movie captures their experience in very nuanced ways. Many of them are victims of the radiation, not from burning or something like that. So it was invisible. And they would hide that and sometimes move to other parts of Japan or not share it with their partner because of the anxiety about whether their children would be affected by it. And the author of the book, in very nuanced ways, really knows the subject matter, even to the detail of having the adoptive family being an Australian male and a Japanese woman living in Kyoto City. So during the occupation, the Australians were part of the Allies, so they needed a part of Japan to control too. So the Americans signed them the irradiated cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the residences for the occupation troops was Kyoto City. So it would be quite natural that you had an Australian male marry a Japanese woman. And because adoption is not very common in Japan, it would also be expected that probably their son did not know that he was adopted because it fit the sort of narrative of the Australian-Japanese thing. So the film is incredible. I really want to go read the book. The author of the book really knew his material well. It's a great, great story.
Thank you. I was thinking about, what's the Japanese term, kitsumi, where you break things and then you fix them with gold so that you don't pretend that it was never broken, but it's made more beautiful by the way it was fixed. And that I thought about that a lot with this movie as well.
Nell, isn't there something about who the chef is the son of in real life in the story?
Yes.
Can you tell that?
I was trying to remember. He's the son of, I think, is it the actress who plays the older version
I
of.
think that's his
I think
son.
I think that's her son, yeah. I think that's right, but please double check me. But I know that actor is related to somebody in the cast. Yeah. Okay, do we have another question?
Yes, we have one here,
Okay.
center.
So food is a love language, as is music, and I love that Miko says she fell in love when Christopher sings his Icelandic song, and it's such a touching moment because he's standing there in the midst of people from a completely different culture, and he has to dig deep because he's shy, and then he just sings something from his homeland, and I just wanted to say that was beautiful, and we should all sing to each other more. But do you have any comments about the use of music? I suppose maybe it was in the book, but I just thought that was a great way to illustrate falling in love.
I love it when she says, I fell in love with you when you were singing, and he says, would that work again? And she says, it's worth a try.
Yeah, and I think too, the karaoke bar is very culturally Japanese. Also the illusion that he looks like John Lennon. Could she be Yoko Ono? I don't know, but there was all these, and of course the music of the 60s was one of the music was playing
Right.
throughout the first part of the movie. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Right.
There's something else I changed my mind about. I used to think when we saw movies about young love, especially people who fell in love in like high school, that, what did we really know about love at that point? But over the years, I have seen so many people who fell passionately in love in high school, and for whatever reason, maybe someone was Jewish and someone was another faith, and their families didn't let them get together, but they loved each other so much, and later in life they get back together or something. And so I've started thinking of young love differently. We are so impassioned, we are so full of life, so full of hopes, so full of dreams, so full of ideas of romance, that now I think of young love as different. I think it's a love that should be celebrated. It doesn't mean that you don't grow up and have other experiences, but I just do think there's something so sweet about young love.
Absolutely, and that's so beautifully done in the movie. I'll tell you what my mother-in-law said, because we were very young when we got together. She said, find him young and bring him up the way you want him.
Has Miko been in other films?
I don't remember seeing her in anything released in the U.S.
I have seen her in other films.
Have you?
She's very beautiful.
Yeah.
The young Miko and the old Miko also is.
Yeah.
I think the old Miko is a famous actress in Japan.
Japan.
But the young Miko, I've seen her in something else. I just don't know what.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I hope we get to see her, and I hope we get to see the young Christoph. Wasn't he terrific, the director's son? Yeah. Just had very soulful eyes. Any other questions? I
have
think we
one.
got one over here.
I have one over here.
I was thinking that it was believable that the mother would go back and visit her son at the restaurant because, many couples give up a child, but they trust that it's for the best. And that love and trust are intertwined, and so the whole movie to me was built on somehow trusting as much as possible.
That's a thoughtful comment. I would love to know more about Miko's relationship with her father after he made her give the baby away. But we didn't, I guess they were still close because she wrote to her friend in England about him. But I would love to know how that relationship developed.
There's microphone back there.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this movie, and someone I know mentioned that the older versions of Christopher and Miko don't actually look like the characters. Like their younger versions are really beautiful in an almost idealized way, and that the way it's shot makes that their early relationship really in golden hues, very idealized, and that we're seeing this through older Christopher's memory.
Yeah.
So he's thinking of himself as this very handsome young man and her as this very, right? Could you
Absolutely.
comment on that? Do you think that's something?
I think I mentioned that in the review, which you should be able to, which you should be able to link to, and that's exactly what I said, so very intelligent comment. Even the heights were not the same. So, yeah, Christopher much taller. Young Christopher's much taller. Yeah, so that's exactly what I think happened, is that was his memory of it, and in his memory, he looked like that. Yeah. I think we've got time for one more question. Everybody ready for dinner? Okay.
Oh, I
we
think
got
there's
one?
microphone
All right,
right
good.
there, the last
Okay,
question.
Last question.
You want to hold it? Oh, I was going to. Thank you. I got it. I saw how COVID acted as a metaphor to try to confound the basic human desire to touch, to reach out, to be involved. So all the forces that went against this couple, I thought was capitalized by COVID.
Absolutely, the way that he took off his mask when he came in, and yeah, absolutely, that's a lovely comment. Thank you. Can you join me in
Thank you, and
thanking
it's
the
dinner
panel?
time.
Yeah.
We'll see you back here for,
Hangover.
Oh, The Hangover, the last film, Hangover. Okay.
Thank you very much, Nell. That was good.
Thank you.
You know a lot about everything, Doug.
Oh, that movie really has me slim.
I know.